Welcome to the Corporate to Coach podcast. I'm Pamela, a former corporate professional turned certified life and business coach and mentor. If you're ready to sign clients, grow your soul-led coaching business, and shed the employee identity so you can step fully into business ownership, you're in the right place. Let's begin. So I'm jumping on for a very short episode because this was on my heart earlier and I was sharing it on Instagram stories, but I feel like this is one that I want to keep for the memory book. So I'm adding it to the podcast. And it's something that I went through as I was going through the rebrand. And I see it a lot with my clients when they're going through a transition process. And I kind of get the sense for it when they start with me, but especially when they've been working with me and then they decide to pivot and change things. And I also see this in my discussion with coach friends and peers, and I want to share it with you today. And a big part of going through a transition and a pivot in your business, whether that is, and let's actually define what that could look like. It could be something quite radical, like changing niche, and it could be something somewhat small, like just rebranding something like a podcast cover. Like I went from build your coaching business around the 9 to 5 to corporate to coach podcast. Nothing else has actually changed, but I was changing the title, the branding, but the way that I wanted to approach that was more than just visual. I actually sat with, what is my podcast about? Who am I actually here to serve? What do I like to discuss? Who do I want to call in? What level of conversation do I want to be having? That's what informed the way that I describe the podcast when you find it and read the description, but also for my own clarity more than anything, like feeling the connection, feeling the alignment, feeling the aliveness with what I'm putting out into the world. Because I believe everything is a mirror. Everything that you experience is a mirror to you in some way. And when you use that lens in a productive way, you can look at how successful your business is, how much money you're making, how many clients you're generating, the impact that you're creating, the value that you're putting out there, the creative flow that wants to come alive through you, the connections that you're building. These measures of success, and some you will value greater than others, depending on what season you're in, what your priorities are. And I'm not going to go into the value of that or what the differences are, and I'm not going to debate here which one you should be focused on. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being in a season where your biggest priority and your biggest measure of success is money. Fair enough. Sometimes that's the case. And other times it's actually about creative expression and about flow. All of it's valid. Sorry, whatever your measure of success is right now, you may feel that being stifled if you're not in alignment with what you're putting out in the world. So if your offer isn't aligned anymore, if your pricing isn't actually in alignment with you and it isn't congruent with how you actually feel inside and what you actually believe your coaching is worth, if you feel like, in my case with the podcast rebrand, if you feel a little bit disconnected with the name or the structure or the branding of something, it has an impact. And even though I'm not a big fan of centering things like branding, what I actually value in this instance is alignment. Always, always, always. But here's the thing when it comes to alignment. Alignment doesn't always actually feel good. And I think this is where lots of people go wrong. Because when you are in alignment with what you're doing, then you tend to want to do it better. You tend to want to do it. So what I mean by that is, when you're not in alignment with the things that you're putting out there, you are going to be holding yourself back because it's against your soul to do something that isn't in alignment. But what's so interesting is that your soul isn't the only thing running the show. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a human body. This is where it gets really, really interesting. So it's a little bit woo. Stick with me. I'm realizing we maybe could have done with a longer episode, but I'm on a deadline today, so we're going to have to practice keeping it succinct. But I believe that we have a soul contract. We have an expression that our soul wants to experience in this human lifetime. But the human part is not only governed by the soul, it is also governed by our conditioning, by our wiring, by the beliefs that we have instilled, fortified, practiced, and habituated over the course of our life. So if, like many of my clients, you have come from an established career and you're going into entrepreneurship, you're doing that probably because at a values-based level, something about that career was no longer satisfying your core values. And you have wanted to expand your horizons, expand what's possible for you, and pursue entrepreneurship. But here's the thing, you wouldn't have developed a career in that field and you wouldn't still be in it, or you wouldn't have felt such a sense of stability, security, and safety in that job if you didn't feel those values with it. AKA, it was giving you stability, security, safety. And if there's one thing that entrepreneurship isn't, is a guarantee of any of those things. It is inherently high risk. So when we are doing things within our business, if we are still operating at a values level of I need security, stability, safety to feel safe, to feel that I can go ahead and do the things that I know that I want to do, when actually everything about how a business is set up, the risk of rebranding and people don't get it, the risk of changing your niche and you're going to have to start afresh with a new audience and a new message, the risk that if you change your pricing, people might judge you. All of that is attacking your nervous system's perception of safety, security, and stability. And therefore, that transition feels awful. It feels uncomfortable. It feels scary. It feels unknown. It feels like you are shaking the foundations of everything you know because it is rubbing up against your values. When you can recognize that, you can hold the discomfort and you can continue to take courageous action. You can continue to move forward and you can continue to trust the soul's calling that is calling you towards that new niche, that new offer, that new rebrand, and trust that that will always lead you to where you need to go. Versus staying with the conditioning of the mind and the basically the nervous system and trying to keep it safe and not rock the boat. So yeah, it's been scary. It was scary when I transitioned from the career change program to Thrive. That was an offer change. The offer change happened because of a niche change. It was scary for me to transition from being a career change coach into a business coach for coaches, or a life and business coach for coaches. That was so scary because that was shaking the foundations of those core values that I do still value. But I've learned to find safety in other ways. It doesn't mean that I've had to get rid of my values. It's meant that I've had to recognize what my values are and get very intentional about where I satisfy those values in different ways so that I can go and do big and courageous and brave things in my business so that I can keep moving towards greater and greater soul alignment. Because when you are in soul alignment, you are going to be building a soul-led business. You're going to be making money that feels good. You're going to be excited and alive and connected every single day. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel authentic. And that is what people are fundamentally seeking, even if you have very different circumstances to show for it. That's why I attract clients from all different walks of life, different countries, different circumstances, different careers, different job titles, different niches, different family circumstances. Some are parents, some are not parents, some are C-suite, some are not, some live in obscure places that I've never been to. Others are neighbors. And yet the thread of commonality is the values that we are working towards is both greater safety, security, and what was the other one I said? Safety, security, and something that has completely escaped my brain. But whatever those values are, but alongside these new values that we're all seeking in terms of freedom, fulfillment, purpose, alignment, alongside our soul's calling. So this rebrand wasn't just, I'm going to just update the name and change the cover. I mean, on a 3D level, that is literally all it was. Like update the name, update the URL, update the title, make a Canva image. Like it looks simple, on the outside, when you are measuring it based off those superficial 3D material things, when you recognize how it's hitting up against your values and you're seeing what it represents behind all of that, that's why it's uncomfortable as fuck. That's why we get scared. That's why we stagnate. That's why we procrastinate. That's why we don't just go all in, even though we know that that's where we need to go. So I hope that that has given you a deeper understanding of what is happening when you are experiencing the discomfort of going through a major transition. Sorry, I just need to check. Yeah, when you are going through, whoa, I just had major deja vu. Oh, how exciting. This is a good sign. I always think deja vu is a beautiful, good sign. Um, so yeah, this is why it feels so uncomfortable when something new is unfolding. But trust the process. And if that in and of itself feels like, okay, I need more, you're like, Pamela, I'm trying to trust the freaking process. Help me here. Come and work with me. Please, this is what we do together. We do the 3D. We look at what's happening in terms of the outside. Is it a title change? Do we need to update the Canva graphics? And is it, where do we need to make sure that you are in alignment with your soul and satisfying the needs of your nervous system, which is always going to run the show? And making sure that your business is still running effectively in the background and that everything that you are doing and building and creating in this beautiful business of yours is in alignment. That is the work. If it's all business, come and sign up to my email list by downloading the client creation guide and or the visibility series. They were both excellent free resources for you to dive into. And then you will be the first to know when Thrive Group gets released, which is being released very soon. But if you can't wait, then book your consult and schedule a one-to-one with me right now, because one-to-one, look, this is the difference. Group is centered around business. It's all we do. It's just purely business growth. It's a beautiful container. You get access to everything. So it's not like I gatekeep. It's one to many, but it's still new. Like there's only a small handful of us. So you're getting plenty of my one-on-one attention with you within the group setting. So it's a really, really good time to join because you get that access to me. But if you also know that actually the alignment goes bigger than just business, but there's stuff going on in life 9 to 5, and maybe you just prefer the one-to-one, like that's just how you roll, then one-to-one is for you. So book your consult. Let's connect. Let's chat with where you're at. Let's see what's unfolding for you. And yeah, we'll leave it there. I'll see you in the next episode.